And with those few words, I welcome all of you to this forum, including our friends from the media, and as we wait to listen to the lecture in a few minutes' time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade GSG. We really appreciate the brief welcoming remarks. And can I then request that we now proceed to the next item, which will be a presentation on behalf of the ANC in Gauteng, on behalf of the leadership of our movement in Gauteng, which I believe that would be led by the Provincial Secretary of the ANC in Gauteng, if I'm not mistaken, Comrade Nomvula. I hope that is the, yes, Comrade Jacob Kawe, can we welcome you and also request you to unmute and start giving a message on behalf of the leadership of our movement.
No, thank you very much. Comrades, I will time and again. Okay, there's a message from Comrade Mdu, the host has asked you to start your video. Okay. So basically, we thank the opportunity as the province to be part of the celebration of 100 years Yomdom Dala, Ubabu Harry Gwala. We want to start our presentation by a brief of what we would have done as a province today. And that today we reconnected with Ubabu Gwala by laying wreath at the Bipatong Memorial, where the people of the Val were murdered from 1991 up until 1992, and specifically the 17th of June, 1992. And we were doing so to remember the guidance and the leadership by Comrade Gwala in encouraging communities to respond to war by war, and ensuring that people are defended, and that generally the sponsored violence is exposed in our communities, and in particular in Bipado. We further went to Ekurhuleni, in Thokoza specifically, and as we speak, we are convening a seminar there with the former members of SDUs across the East Rand to really recall and reconnect the peace process with the war that would have taken place there. And basically, we know that as Comrade Dumankosi would be addressing, part of what he loves most is what Umdom Dala would have said, Ngamachuba, and generally warning us that the leadership of the ANC and the NEC must be ready ukuthi badla amajuba kodwa abantu bona bafocus empini ababhekene nayo. We remember Harry Gwala in the province as a national leader, even though he would have worked in KZN and in the legislature later. But Comrade Gwala represents to us a leadership that is not afraid to confront its leadership and deal with issues that are confronting our people. How do we want to celebrate Gwala? We want to celebrate Gwala by committing ourselves to the values of the ANC, the values of being disciplined, committed to the task, and at all material times, to be where the people are. Today in Gauteng, we are confronted with a challenge of electricity shortages across all our townships in particular. Eskom has continued to apply some measures on credit control with no concern on the weather conditions confronting our people now, but generally fighting with municipalities on interest and the debt. We think if we want to celebrate Gwala, our leaders and the ANC in particular and the alliance in the province should be amongst the people and ensure that a solution is found in dealing with the issue of electricity. Dala represented a generation of revolutionaries who were not obsessed with political positions, but who was obsessed by working with the people, with the youth, with the members of community. And we want to celebrate Comrade Gwala by building amongst ourselves a cadreship of people who are in love in working and serving with our people. It is a known fact today that most organs of people's power are weak, that our relationship with the organs of people's power is on the basis of them and us. And we think if we want to celebrate Harry Gwala properly, we've got to rework, reorganize ourselves in ensuring that we are forming part of the organs of people's power. We don't see them as them and they don't see us as us, but we become one, which would be the best way to honor and celebrate Comrade Harry Gwala. Comrades, in Bipatong in particular, when the family of Sotsu, Ntate Sotsu, was murdered, the leadership of the ANC had to pause in the national conference, and a delegation would have been sent in Bipatong. The known statement by our leadership was calling for peace and warning us about the role of the third force. But in the engagement with Comrade Gwala and many other leaders who were in charge and running the self-defense units, we got to know that the establishment or the achieving of peace can only through the same energy and zeal the apartheid government is using against our people. In Bipatong, in 1992, when our people were slaughtered, and a rally was organized in the East Rand addressed by Comrade Gwala. Significantly, Comrade Gwala interpreted the noble cause of the noble statement of the ANC that the people are their own liberators by asking for the people to be self-armed and to respond to the enemy. We are bringing this because it is necessary for the ruling party to reaffirm that commitment that the people are their own liberators, that whatever we do, we shouldn't do for our people, but we should do together with our people. In doing so, we will be celebrating Harry Gwala properly. Comrades, we want to conclude by making just one point, the point about in the collective of leadership, how we miss the qualities of Comrade Harry Gwala. Because if you have a leadership collective of everybody who agrees or people who disagree, or people who disagree generally on factional basis and not become irritation to the party on the basis of the interest of the people, you're making the organization a bit weaker. We wish as a province that we could sponsor properly the production of a leadership in the O.R. Tambo School, in the Walter Sisulu School in the province, produce quality leadership and that be a focus of the organization, and that this quality leadership should amongst produce those who are not afraid to talk truth to power. It shouldn't be a function of the opposition parties or a function of the alliance structures, but it should be a collective function. And that can only happen if we are conscious in building quality leadership. We join the nation. We will be part to be addressed by the president today as we celebrate the centenary Yom Dala, and we thank the opportunity given to us to connect with comrades in KZN and everywhere else and celebrate the life of Comrade Harry Gwala. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kawa, for that brief reflection on the role of Ntomdala during the times that he spent out there as part of the work of our movement. Comrade Nomvula, I'm reliably informed that there is a technical glitch with regard to the video that was supposed to be shown here. And therefore, I would like to request that I hand over the program to you to proceed, and that in an event where the video becomes available, we will then indicate later on.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mdu. Can Comrade Shanaz and the DIP comrades please then assist us in sorting out the challenge with the video footage? Thanks once more, Provincial Secretary of the ANC in Gauteng Province, and we have heard also about the meaningful contributions and how you, as a province, also would sponsor how the ANC and its entire membership should celebrate and emulate the spirit of Comrade Harry Gwala, both in the ANC, in the alliance, and in the mass democratic movement in its entirety. Comrades, I'm going to try and move on then and request the speaker from COSATU. We were told that Comrade Peggy had worked on a clip, unless if there is somebody who's going to help us to connect on that clip by Comrade Peggy Jali, as it was reported by Comrade Theo. Comrade Ubakeng? Comrade DIP? I'm not getting feedback from comrades who I'm hosting, nor from comrades from DIP. Comrade Amos? If that is the case, then I would request that we move on, and if the team that is prepared, that has been organizing, can make a follow-up on the video clip that Comrade Theo spoke about on behalf of COSATU, will gladly appreciate that. Comrade Blade was getting ready, and I'm sure he might actually have connected. If I may be assisted in that regard, Comrade Soli, is Comrade Blade connected already? We seem to, we have moved faster than what he had anticipated because he had another commitment earlier. Comrade Mapaila?
I think he's connecting, Comrade Chair. Maybe just a brief minute. I see some other people who are connected. If the team can look into those who are on the waiting room.
Okay, I would. Comrade Shanaz and Comrade Ubakeng?
So let's speak for COSATU, man.
Who?
Yeah. You can see I've got the badge of SAPAU, my industrial union.
Yeah, they promised us the video clip by Comrade Peggy. And so, yeah, let's... Comrade Shanaz, are we getting Comrade Blade through?
He's not in the waiting room, Comrade Ovula.
He's not in the waiting room.
Nope. Can I play the video, Shalok?
Yes, please play the video if you can now.
Speak for Kosato. Hello, Jess.
Committee Triangle. Bafundis and comrades all. Ngaphambi kwenkalise mangisho lento eyodwa. Apho amanazi amaJalimani ayahambisana nalamanazi kade Klerk namhlanje. I said 5 miles from Moscow. Waqhamuka izwi elaqhamuka Commander-in-Chief of the Red Army, Comrade Stalin. What stop Hitler or die? Comrades, sinaleyo task lana. You stop apartheid or die. Comrades, see, and when I was at Stalingrad, which was the turning point where the flower of the German army, where the rose of Berlin, where the cream of Nazism surrendered to the common peasants and common people who were the Red Army, the People's Army. We will make apartheid surrender on these battlefields. Spokane, Hola Park, Togoza, name it, we shall be there. Comrades, into ebalulekile ngaphambi ngidlule kule ndawo eqondene nesonto. Sikhulumile ngoMoses. Njengokwaxoxela abantwana. Israel. What are they something is charisma? When I saw those men from the hostel, when I saw those men marching with their arms, I said, dear, it's freedom. Because without a powerful army of the people, People's Army, a democratic army, there can be no peace. Sekhulumile umfundisi wathi izikhali ziyophendula amakhuba. That's a very good philosophy. I like the church. Ngiyalithanda isonto kuba liyasiduduza. Ukuthi mawusosizeni bathi thula ngoba kusho ukuthi kuphuma kuhlangane. We all wish to eat ngale. But we want to eat here. We want to eat here and now, not tomorrow. Size sibe njena nje mfundisi. Sibe njena nje ma comrades. Kungenxa yokuthiwa power. And the power which turned South Africa into a country of servitude. Yayilele ezikhaleni nami ami yamangisi. And the sun never set in the British Empire because they then had the strongest army in the world, supported by a very strong economy. Without that people's army, we can't talk of peace. Amana, Zagayazi, peace, we are going to impose peace on them. Peace is going to be fought for and maintained. Yeah. Lapanabu, Deputy President, Otisha, Amanabanolwazi, Abafundisa Manonabetulwazi. Utige, Mekulumalana, Infundo must not be partisan. Once they call a food partisan, we'll throw that education away because there'll be no education. Education must be partisan. Finally, Korean was the oppression, was the democracy, was the fascism, was the a teacher went to teach in Moscow in 1935. Fika kona ufundisa isibalo. Says if I have 12, I buy 12 oranges for 2 shillings and sell them for 2 shillings and 6 pence. What all children shut up their because education is partisan. Once you get a profit of so many percentages. When you have come to pay our tribute, one of the conditions they've done by Inkatha is that MK must be dismantled. Goba, MK, you're leaders, Inkatha. That is an insult to MK. You in Inkatha, MK, let's go to Tetegiona. We as the African National Congress produced one of the best armies in the world.
Chair, Comrade Blade has joined.
We seem to be facing challenges with the video. What we will do, we'll use the Alliance platforms also to distribute this video so that comrades can share. We unfortunately apologize. It's an old clip that we're trying to use and to share. And thanks also to comrades in Gauteng who have been helpful to actually get us this particular footage. We'll plead with members of the media, those who have it also, and any other form of documentary on Comrade Harry Gwala, to share it with us. On that note, comrades, I'm going to invite the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Blade Nzimande, who has just joined us. And as we have said, we've acknowledged other leaders of the Tripartite Alliance. And we have Comrade Blade, who is the leader of the South African Communist Party, who will also make a statement on behalf of the South African Communist Party as we celebrate. In this program, comrades, we also are live streaming in the SABC, and there is also some connection that is going on with some of the other media platforms. We appreciate that. And my ANC is also active on Facebook. Comrades are linking and are watching on Facebook. I'm still going to appeal, comrades, please mute yourselves. And those who are coming in, Comrade Shanaz, make sure that they are muted. We've also just been joined by comrades from the Northern Cape. We understand the Northern Cape is from far coming to KwaZulu-Natal. Welcome, Comrade Deshi, the Provincial Secretary, and your team from the Northern Cape. We have the Western Cape also here amongst us. Comrade Blade, the floor is yours. Comrade Blade.
Mkhize, thank you. Ungibamba ngingakabi ready nanokuba ready ngiqeda ukujoyina nje. Ngisathi ngizolalela ukuthi kuthiwani. But let me take this opportunity. Let me greet, excuse me, all the comrades. I'm not even aware who is here or not here. I'm sorry about that, Chair. But I heard there's the DSG, Comrade Jesse, who is with us, and all other leaders. In the ANC, the SACP, and COSATU, as well as other formations of our broad democratic movement who possibly have joined us this afternoon. Allow me, Chair, first, perhaps to start by paying tribute to the late Comrade Sheikh Stel, who were laying to rest in Pietermaritzburg this morning. It is a rather unfortunate coincidence that we are laying Comrade Sheikhs to rest on the day of the centenary of Harry Gwala. And the two, when they were working together, they were inseparable. Comrade Sheikhs was the first regional secretary of the ANC in the Midlands in 1991, under the leadership and the chairpersonship of Comrade Harry Gwala. We said goodbye to Comrade Sheikhs today for his enormous contribution to our struggle and to the movement, and highlighted one very prominent thing about Comrade Sheikhs. Sheikhs loved the ANC. You couldn't do anything, but loving the ANC also meant he cared about the African National Congress. So I thought, Chair, it's appropriate that I start by saying so, because these two comrades, at some stage, they were inseparable. Indeed, the president is still going to make what will be the official tribute or lecture on this centenary. So for that reason, then, I'm not going to be long at all. But we're just going to say that as the South African Communist Party, we are indeed very honored that we are celebrating the centenary of Harry Gwala, as the SACP itself is celebrating its 99th anniversary this year and its own centenary next year. We want to say that maybe my focus will really be on understanding and knowing Comrade Gwala a bit more closely after he was released from jail in 1998. But I must just say that Comrade Gwala, staying in Dambuza Road in Pietermaritzburg, where I also grew up, which is the mistake that the Boers used to make, is to think that if you have locked somebody behind bars, everybody else will forget about that person. In fact, the mere fact that many of us, the youngsters in Dambuza, in the late 60s into the 70s, early 70s, knew that there was someone in our own street who was serving a prison sentence in Robben Island in the struggle for freedom. That in itself acted as a source of conscientization. Let alone that when Robben Gwala was released, I think it was 1972, from his first stint of a sentence in Robben Island, he was actually delivering laundry using the old Toyota Hi-Ace, which was known, Chair, I'm sure you remember it, as Upotsotso. It was a blue Toyota Hi-Ace, and he was delivering laundry to different houses and so on, and people dropping in their dirty clothes and so on. Little did we know, until Robben Gwala gets rearrested, I think around 1976, that in fact, in between those clothes, Robben Gwala was also busy recruiting for Umkhonto weSizwe, so he never gave up, which is one very important lesson that we need to learn from someone like him. So by the time Robben Gwala gets released in 1988, he was already, like many of our leaders who were imprisoned, long-term imprisonment, a hero. And as I say, on my side, growing up as a young boy in the same street as where Robben Gwala came from, acted as a huge motivation for actually becoming part of the struggle for liberation. When Robben Gwala came out of prison, he came out at just on the eve of what perhaps may go down in our history as one of the most difficult periods, especially in KZN, but also to a certain extent in Gauteng, particularly in the then East Rand, and a few other places. Because when Robben Gwala came out in 1988, violence was picking up. The violence of the apartheid regime against the people. And with the apartheid regime using its surrogates, like the IFP at that time, Inkatha as it was known, as its stormtroopers. And when Robben Gwala was released, he didn't hesitate. He just did a few things that were very crucial. He quickly was working with the comrades to establish self-defense units and also quickly establish political classes, some of which used to hold them at home. Comrades must not just be good in defending the area and defending communities only by force of arms, but they must also be politically mature and politically conscious. Now, one of the big battles then that were ever waged in this part of the world, in Pietermaritzburg in particular at that time. Though Robben Gwala was a national hero, but it's important to talk about this because it was a measure of his stature that managed to actually help us to negotiate very complicated period. On the 25th of March, 1990, Inkatha, assisted by the South African Defence Force and the South African police at that time, descended upon Edendale, wanting to overrun Edendale because Edendale at that time was a UDF stronghold and consequently also was becoming an ANC stronghold. This was now hardly 2 months after the unbanning of the ANC. Robben Gwala used to then sit us down and say, why don't we analyze what happened? Two conclusions we came to. We said, firstly now, the 7-day war was actually the launch of one of the most violent periods in the history of our revolution. And secondly, the aim of the launching of that war primarily was to prevent the African National Congress from re-emerging from underground and be able to establish its own structures on the ground. That was the twin objectives. But one of the things, as the apartheid regime launched this war, at the same time it advanced the idea that what was the problem in KZN in the main? They would argue that also in Gauteng, when vigilantes were actually attacking people in trains, what subsequently happened in Boipatong, and the running battles between hostel dwellers and comrades in the East Rand, Katlehong and all those places. The apartheid regime was saying this is black on black violence. I won't forget Robben Gwala because he was at his best on this. That this notion of black on black violence was being deliberately propagated by the apartheid regime to give a sense that the regime's hands were clean. So the blood that is being spilled is just black people fighting amongst themselves and reinforcing this notion of black people being violent. But Robben Gwala was insistent that everything must be correctly characterized. This was not black on black violence, but this was violence of the apartheid regime against the people, with a particular focus at that time to dislodge the liberation movement by preventing it from being able to establish its own base inside the country. And in a way, also what the apartheid regime was doing at that time was also to try and determine the outcomes of the negotiations process that had actually started. It was because of that also the argument grew strong that what you cannot be able to win on the ground, you won't be able to win on the table, because the apartheid regime was waging war to destabilize the movement on the ground. Robben Gwala was therefore a very important theoretician of the movement, a very important source of political education. That was one of his strongest strengths. I remember that I was amongst those who served in his first REC that he led in 1991. Every week, once a week without fail, we would go to the boardroom in the office as REC members and invite a few other comrades who were working in the office, and we will be doing political discussions. One of his favorite texts, I remember now, is the text by Engels, Private Property and the Family, and the Origins of the Family. And we would sit and discuss every week. You go and read 10 pages, we come back the following week, we discuss those 10 pages. Something that really brought strength into building a very strong organization, because his own belief was that you don't only fight by a gun, but also you must have leaders who are politically clear. And that's a challenge that we face today. That as we are facing over the last couple of years, if not more, a decline in the level of political education and political consciousness, we run the danger actually of slowly allowing our movement to be weakened. We are very pleased that the ANC has established the OR, hopefully be very helpful. And the SACP itself, we have now established our own Jack Simons National Party School, and those will need to be able to work together in order to ensure that we have got a politically conscious cadreship. The other thing is that Robben Gwala used to command from the front, not from the back. As comrades can see and remember from the video, Robben Gwala's hands had become motionless. He couldn't use them. And we strongly suspected that he was poisoned actually in Robben Island. We were very convinced because he was one of the most prolific writers and also was a political educator in Robben Island. But he commanded, during the 7-day war, he was in the front line and security had to try and whisk him away, and he said, I can't be telling comrades to go and defend the area and I'm sitting at home being nicely protected by bodyguards and so on. And I won't forget this because at the height of the violence at some stage, Comrade Madiba, as president of the ANC, decided to send a delegation to the Midlands to come and find out about violence. So they sent a person, by the way, Ubab Gwala used to be a very tough person sometimes, very difficult to handle. We must say that, you know, and sometimes could be very stubborn, but very principled at the same time. So Madiba, knowing him, decided to send his closest friend, the one person that Ubab Gwala respected at all times, many people may not know this, was Comrade Walter Sisulu. Ubab Gwala would be like a little puppy when Comrade Walter was around. He used to call him Wali. Oh, Wali, we have arrived here. Madiba has sent you. Oh, it's so nice. And he would be smiling from ear to ear. Then we go into the boardroom. He then says, well, Wali, if Madiba has sent you to come and understand what is going on with the violence, can we please go and get into our cars so that we go and experience violence firsthand? And Ubab Gwala said the cars must actually drive to a border area, as it were, between ANC territory, which was very common those days, and IFP territories, which were respective no-go areas for the two organizations. Security had to fight a big battle to say, but Baba, how can you do this? He said, you don't just study the war in the boardrooms and understand it. You must understand it on the ground. That was Comrade Harry Gwala. Of course, Ubaba, this is one thing also that maybe I can't end without saying. I must congratulate the comrades who have managed to set up the Harry Gwala Foundation. I think that is very important, that we set up institutions that will serve as memory to our leaders, especially those who have departed. But as the SACP would like to really caution, though, that in establishing such foundations, we must be very, very careful that we don't allow these foundations to be used to attack in an unprincipled fashion organizations that those leaders belong to. We don't expect the Harry Gwala Foundation to be used to attack the SACP. It will no longer be a Harry Gwala Foundation. It will be an opportunistic foundation, opportunistically using the name of Ubab Gwala. We are not saying the foundation can't engage with the party critically, but it can't be used opportunistically to actually attack the SACP. So we must not allow the Nelson Mandela Foundation or the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation to be used as a platform to attack the African National Congress. We need to be absolutely clear about this. I think that is very important. I'm saying this because, unfortunately, one of these platforms on Ubab Gwala was used actually to distort something that I think I'm duty-bound to clarify. Ubab Gwala was suspended from the SACP at some stage in the 90s, early 90s, because he did not cooperate with an investigation that was being done by the SACP about the threats that were facing some SACP leaders in KZN. He refused to cooperate with that, and the SACP decided to suspend him. But interestingly enough, by the time Ubab Gwala died, he had been readmitted into the SACP because after a while, Ubab Gwala realized that indeed, and actually did say to the SACP, I was misled, because one of the people who was behind all this, we've proven now that he was working for the apartheid regime, and apologized to those comrades who were nearly killed for having been wrongly accused, which was a very normal thing in those times. So that, on that basis, Ubab Gwala was then readmitted back onto the South African Communist Party. So we must lay that to rest. So it's very important that we use such platforms to tell and correct our own history. Maybe the last thing, Chair, that I need to say is that the challenge that really is facing us, we dare not allow our alliance, our movement, to be driven to the brink through factionalism. One gets a sense that the depth of factionalism across our movement is reaching a very dangerous stage where there seems to be a belief by any one faction that in order for it to consolidate its power or hold over the movement, it must destroy the other faction completely. In other words, its own condition of existence must be the destruction of the other faction. We have seen how these things have gone to such an extent that hatred in some instances amongst comrades is worse than hatred between comrades and our enemies. Now, at this rate, and if we are not able to arrest this, we may actually be taking our movement, just throwing it over the cliff. You know, working with Robben Gwala, hard as he was, but he used to make sure that when we're going to conference, as much as you are going to contest, you are not enemies. And always preach this, but increasingly it's not happening in practice. So it's very important that we remember Robben Gwala, we also face the reality that we have, that factionalism connected with corruption and money politics is likely to drive our organization to the cliff. At some stage, we need to say, hold it. Let's just hold back for a while. Why don't we just sit down and say, we can't be going this way, because we'll all be losers at the end of each day. There is no faction that will survive, no matter how strong it thinks, if the ANC or our movement as a whole is dead. So that faction will also die, a natural death. So it's very important, as we remember Robben Gwala, that we keep that. And also the issue of the alliance, comrades. With the kind of challenges that we are facing now, like COVID-19, it's actually very clear that alliance unity is not a luxury, but it's an absolute necessity. There is no way any component of our movement on its own can actually be able to defeat this pandemic. And also we need to unite the movement to support the effort of government to be able to defeat this. So it's very, very important that the alliance is nurtured and we value it. In fact, it's very strange in some respects that much as sometimes we do not pay adequate attention to building the alliance, many progressive forces throughout the world, they envy our alliance because they themselves in many of their countries are trying to build alliances and they are very difficult. They fractionate all the time. And they say to us, how did you build your own alliance? It seems to have to be very resilient and so on. It is very important, therefore, that we seek in the name of Robben Gwala and other heroes of ours to actually build the tripartite alliance, so that this alliance also is able to deal with what the SACP refers to as the immediate triple challenges. We have the triple structural challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. But at the moment, we are faced with immediate triple challenges of COVID-19, the deepening economic crisis, and the crisis of social reproduction, our people increasingly, households and families, unable to make ends meet. And we have to fight these things together and in their interrelationship, because we cannot fight one without the other. But nevertheless, the SACP is also of the view that COVID-19 presents a new opportunity, bad as it is, for us to actually radically restructure our economy, such that it is an economy that is inclusive and that is able to serve everybody. With those words, we say long live the memory of Comrade Harry Gwala, long live. Thank you very much, Comrade.
Long live Comrade Blade.
Long live.
Thank you very much, Comrade Blade. Thank you. That was indeed very inspiring, reflecting on the past, looking at where we are, but of importance, also contributing on how we must proceed, celebrating the life.
OUTsurance loves saving South Africans money on their car insurance. Let's meet some excited new clients who recently switched to OUTsurance. Let's take a short lap, Nana, into a cheap day.
No problem.
You have a dream.
I want to be a bouncer and I want to go into...
Our alliance through the Alliance Council, the Secretariat has reflected on issues around education, around the economy, on gender-based violence, on the issues of international solidarity with the people of Palestine. And continuously, we all, I think we need to then take advantage of how we have already started to work post-Nasrec, trying to rebuild and renew the ANC and the alliance in its entirety, but appreciate the leadership that has been provided by the alliance leaders. And in this instance, I really want to say on behalf of myself and Comrade Mdu, the program directors, we really appreciate your input and hope it will be also shared in all our other platforms, both print and electronic of the alliance. Comrades, without any further waste of time, allow me to invite a leader of the African National Congress, an activist in his own right, a leader of government in KwaZulu-Natal, a child of the African National Congress, the provincial chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, Comrade Sihle Zigalala. I've also noticed that we have just been joined by the provincial chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, Comrade David Makura. Let me then welcome Comrade Sihle to then make his remarks on behalf of the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Comrade Kuzen.
Thanks, Comrade Program Directors, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane and ISI member, and Comrade Mdu Msentuli, the ANC Provincial Secretary in KwaZulu-Natal. I wish to extend my greetings to the National Chairperson, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, the Deputy Secretary of the ANC, Comrade JC Duarte, the South African Communist Party, Comrade Late Nzimande, and the entire leadership, comrades from COSATU, the ANC Youth League and the ANC Women's League, the veterans and comrades of the MK, the family of Comrade Harry Gwala, Umtomdala, and the foundation of Comrade Harry Gwala that has done a sterling work in ensuring that they uphold the profile and the legacy of Comrade Harry Gwala. Comrades, exactly 100 years ago, in the aftermath of the World War, our country was blessed with the birth of the Lion of Midland, IsiThwalandwe, Comrade Harry Gwala. From an early age, he had to defy the odds and overcome the limitation that his native land imposed on him. In his back-breaking journey, he was transformed into a symbol of defiance against the dark forces hell-bent to destroy him, his movement, and his people. It was the trials and tribulations of the day which he faced that made him a champion of truth, an embodiment of honesty, and a disciplined revolutionary to the bitter end. Mtomdala, we're celebrating him as a resilient and a stoic child of a disabled father and the South African peasantry. We must understand that in celebrating Comrade Harry Gwala, was celebrating one of the leaders who was grounded amongst the people. When his umbilical cord was cut on the 30th of July, 1920, little did his family know that their son was going to grow to become an outstanding liberation hero. From the movement, he became conscious from his first movement. He became conscious of his surrounding and started to interpret the conditions around him growing up from Swayimane. And he attested in one of the interviews he held in 1989, where he said, and I quote, "My grandmother and other women used to go around and do casual labor for the farmers, stripping vegetables, and they used to wrap their feet because of the cold weather they were suffering from." And Comrade Harry Gwala attested and put this clearly because his conditions were clear, the conditions, the background of hardship. And he will say, when others call him a hardliner, he will say, we are hardliners because we come from the background of hard conditions. One thing we must appreciate and learn from Comrade Harry Gwala is that he understood the essence of the revolution. He understood both the essence of the National Democratic Revolution, but also socialism and communism. And he knew where was the position of the masses in the struggle. But he also understood that there was an opposition, the enemy of the revolution. And he will interpret why those who are the enemy of the revolution are the enemy. He will say they are enemy because they have, out of exploitation of the black majority, have maximized economic benefit. And for them, apartheid has been a tool to ensure that maximization. And therefore, the relationship between the class and the national struggle was of paramount importance for Comrade Harry Gwala. But also Comrade Harry Gwala knew that while he talk of the enemy, he will also talk of the enemy from within the Congress movement. In the book, The Road to Democracy, the ANC veteran Wilton Mkwai recalls that at some point, Harry Gwala in Robben Island, when he arrived for the second time, he said, "La Robben Island, uyedwa kuphela umuntu ongathengisi. Bonke abanye abantu bayathengisa," and that for him was Comrade Omgov. He believed ukuthi ngazo zonke ikhathi must analyze ukuthi umuntu nomuntu wenzani and what is his contribution in the struggle. From 1942, when he joined the Communist Party, he was informed by the understanding of the exploitative capitalist system. He dedicated his life to the struggle of the working class and the struggle for socialism. He worked tirelessly to organize for the ANC his own party. In his view, the party, he organized for it because he knew that organizing people for the ANC was the basis for the fight for socialism. Comrade Harry Gwala, amongst other things, he hated tribalism and despised racism. He would always be clear that our revolution is against any tribal promotion or any definition of comrades according to their tribe. He was equally emphatic when it comes to the national character of the revolution. Drawing an example of this, when he was released from the prison, from Robben Island, after his first arrest, the leadership, among others, instructed him to go and join the IFP. And Comrade Harry Gwala said, no, but that is a Bantustan organization. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to organize underground for comrades to join the MK, and I will continue to mobilize for the national liberation movement and not for an organization that is there and working for the regime. He was quite clear in his tactic and strategies. Part of his understanding about the national character of the revolution was non-racialism of the ANC that were fighting for a truly non-racial society. Comrade Harry Gwala spoke openly that he found the politics of the Black consciousness very correct, but insufficient to deliver a truly non-racial society that the African National Congress was striving for. So today, when we celebrate Comrade Harry Gwala, we must again commit ourselves to the struggle against all institutions, systems, and anything that continues to define the people of South Africa in terms of their race. And I'm sure from where he is sleeping in Swayimane, Comrade Harry Gwala would say, "Ulkhuni lo msebenzi, umsebenzi wamajoni, namuhla usho ukuthi masiqede ngomnotho osezandleni zabamhlophe kuphela, abamnyama bengenalutho." Umuntu omdala preach a unity of the oppressed, but more so the unity of the poor in South Africa. Apart from his character of being defiant and of telling the truth to the power, but Comrade Harry Gwala appreciated the role of the alliance, the unity of the ANC with the SACP and COSATU. He himself had been a trade unionist. He had been a member and he died being the member of the Communist Party. But he also understood that that particular phase of the revolution needed a national liberation movement to lead the struggle for national liberation. He participated in a number of efforts to build peace in KwaZulu-Natal. But his understanding of building peace was that you are not going to confront and build peace through surrendering to the enemy. He worked together with a number of leaders of the ANC, including former President Zuma and Comrade Jeff Radebe, as they were both working, Gwala being the chair of Midland and Zuma in Southern Natal. We will want to take this opportunity to thank the ANC for dedicating this year in commemoration of the life of Harry Gwala. And that's why in KwaZulu-Natal last week, we had a commemoration session dedicated in his honor in the legislature. And that's why as the government of KwaZulu-Natal, especially the Department of Health, we have named the Edendale Hospital after Comrade Harry Gwala. We owe Comrade Harry Gwala unity of the alliance and of the movement. But Comrade Harry Gwala would not want us to cherish his memory through only lectures and renaming of institutions after him. He would want to see us working together to uproot racism, to uproot and eradicate women abuse, and build a society where gender inequality is not in existence at all. We must not only transform the economy, but for Harry Gwala, we must eradicate poverty and inequality and move to socialism, as he will always emphasize. Thank you, Comrade Mdu and Comrade Nomvula, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Mike Shingange, mute yourself. Thank you very much, Comrade Sihle, Provincial Chair of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. Indeed, very, very important reflections that also fit into what all other previous speakers have said, that it is only through a united alliance with a program that changes the lives of our people and challenge and makes a commitment to eradicate all forms of discrimination in the form of race, gender, or even class, most importantly. And that his memory must not just be celebrated through the renaming of institutions and memorial lectures, but it must also be through the work that even the Harry Gwala Foundation has been doing, even during this challenging period of COVID, where we have seen them crisscrossing KZN and Gauteng, intervening and reaching out to those who are exposed to the non-availability of food, the people that have been exposed also to elements because of their quality of life. We really appreciate that, Comrade Sihle. And as you've said, together with Comrade Blade, also about his understanding of the violence that was meted against the people of South Africa. We must thank the legislature of KwaZulu-Natal once more also that dedicated a session in honor and in memory of Comrade Harry Gwala. Siyabonga kakhulu kuzeni. Comrades, we now going to invite our national chairperson of the African National Congress, who is also a leader and a member of the South African Communist Party, a former trade unionist, but also somebody who has crossed paths with Comrade Harry Gwala in the East Rand then, now Ekurhuleni, during those demanding times, who has also been an activist in the Emalahleni Civic Association. His name is Comrade Samson Gwede Mantashe. I'm going to invite him to then share and do the lecture. Thereafter, we'll come back with Comrade Mdu and share with you on the way forward that would also afford a few of our comrades coming from different provinces and participants to raise issues to the four speakers that have spoken here today. Comrade National Chair. Sorry, Comrade Chair, I think you're muted. Before you come in, let me just quickly, for the record, indicate the President was joining us, and due to unplanned and unforeseen circumstances, has actually had to pull out and assign the national chairperson to, on his behalf, make the presentation here tonight. Comrade National Chairperson.
Program directors, Comrade Nomvula Mkonyane, and Comrade Mtumiseni Ntuli, leadership of the ANC, here, Comrade DSG, I saw you, leadership of the Communist Party, Comrade Blade and members of the Central Committee, leadership of COSATU, led by Solima Paila today. What else do we say when there is a vacuum? Comrades from the various provinces who are present here. You know, the disadvantage of being sent to deliver a lecture on behalf is that it kills your own innovation. One time in the 1993 period, I was sent to replace Comrade Slovo in Etembisa. And as I was taking the platform, people were saying, Aibo, who's Slovo Njalune up? But I had to deliver that message. I'm in that situation today. The first thing I want to mention is that thank you very much for the support I had when I was fighting some invisible enemy called COVID-19. It is real, it needs determination and commitment. Thank you very much, comrades. You send all sorts of messages. And I had to warn Nomvula not to look for the living among the dead, because I'm not dead, you can't look for me among the dead. Now, it was 100 years ago, exactly, when a great son of the soil was born. This son of the soil ended up being a teacher, a communist, an organizer, and a tribune of our people, IsiThwalandwe. Harry Gwala was born in a place called Swayimane, near Pietermaritzburg. Now, banezi abantu bapha abathanda uzibiza ngabawadambuza. Ngongati uDambuza is some huge city when it is actually a village. So he's from there. One of the things that we can learn from Harry Gwala is that growing exposed to glaring poverty and emotional trauma is not the end of the life. It should actually structure you and fashion you into a gallant fighter. That's why it becomes important to always remind people of one of the rebellions that was written and related verbally, the 1906 Bambata Rebellion. If you talk about the Bambata Rebellion today, many people want to attach a tribal complexion to that rebellion. But if you are a Marxist and you are an analyst, you will know that there's nothing tribal about the Bambata Rebellion. It shaped many of our comrades by hearing the stories. So the challenge facing all of us today is whether when we organize these lectures, we memorialize our leaders or use the lectures like this to actually renew the organization. And somebody asked me, what is this organizational renewal? And I said to them, a renewal organization means that there is an organization, it exists, it is weakened in a number of aspects. Then to renew it means it must be renewed for a purpose. And we must be able to identify the purpose we are renewing the organization for. If we don't have the purpose of renewing the organization, then we'll memorialize these leaders when actually they should be an anchor point for us to renew the organization. You know, when you are a teacher, like Harry Gwala, one of the things that you pointed are your students. One of his students was Moses Mabhida. And many of these great leaders of the movement went through classes at night and became great leaders, whether it is Moses Mabhida or Moses Kotane. And when he joined the Commonwealth in 1942, and then the ANC in 1944, he became a founding member of the Congress Youth League. Now, a debate that we always had with Comrade Mdu, that this thing of debating the revolution on the basis of age, instead of on the basis of a contribution of ideas, is actually flawed. There's nothing revolutionary about being young or old. And there's nothing making you useless by being old or young. What is important is what ideas do you contribute to the revolution? Now, having said that, Harry Gwala belongs to the generation of youth leaders who led the movement for 5 decades. Count 1944 to 1994, it was led by this great cohort of youth of 1944. And I want to appeal to the youth today to appreciate the fact that they must get into the movement, sponsor ideas, stand for their ideas, engage logically, and debate politically. For example, if you renew an organization and that renewed organization doesn't have the basis for a political framework for the revolution, to me is a waste of time. I have met a number of members of our movement, both in the party and the ANC, who actually do not understand the concept of, for example, the basic concept of race, class, and gender as the contradictions of the colonialism of a special type, and refuse to appreciate that this colonial realization that what makes South Africa different is the fact that the colonizer want to put a claim on the same piece of land as the colonized. And that challenge remains at hand when comrades talk of economy in the hands of few and white male in the main. He is talking about colonialism of a special type, and our resolution and our revolution should be to resolve that colonialism of a special type and actually resolve the three interrelated contradictions of race, class, and gender. Now, a very important lesson raised there was that political material and conscientization and teaching one another is necessity for approaching a revolution. For example, you see, if you listen today, what at each other's throats about the quality and quantity of the membership of the ANC. Now, when we say that we tend to create self-righteousness and inferiority, instead of appreciating that quantity can only be transferred to quality by the frequency of blows we throw at it and transform it into quality. But if we look at quantity and resent it, Uguti, la quantity riffraff, everybody started at that level, but somebody took a resolution to throw the punches on that quantity to convert it into quality. Something we're very lazy to do. So instead of wanting to transform quantity into quality, we tend to want to disown it. Now, let's use this lecture, Harry Gwala, to recommit ourselves to make our smallest contribution in transforming the quantity into quality. The ANC is working and operating under control of legality. It allows everybody to come in. Others come there with the intention of hurting it. What do we do? Do we run away from that? Or do we allow a debate to be a debate? You know, yesterday somebody asked me about the consultative conferences. And I reminded that individual, Uguti, there were 3 consultative conferences. The first one was in Lubatsi, the second one was in Morogoro, the third one was in Kabwe. All of them were defined consultative conferences because of the nature of the gathering. In the main, because the ANC at the time had no access to its membership base. Now we're having this debate now, and we must entertain it and listen to those who propose it. Why do you want a consultative conference? And I asked 2 questions. Who should be consulted? Consulted by who? Because if we don't answer those basic questions, we can convene a meeting and further divide and weaken the ANC. And that's where we are. And, you know, Gwala, through football, an opponent was created to sustain political consciousness and among prisoners, some of whom were not political prisoners. During the second term, due to the increasing population of the post-1976 generation of youth prisoners, Gwala dedicated the prison term to develop a robust political education through a series of lectures entitled Man and His Country. You see, now we've got the OR Tambo School, we've got Walter Sisulu Political School, we have all these schools. These schools must focus on transforming the big number of activists into real, serious, quality activists. The lecture series contextualized the South African liberation struggle within the doctrine of Marxism-Leninism. Through these lectures, Gwala transformed the island into being a site, from being a site of repression to a university of the liberation struggle. I am raising this issue because Comrade Blade, we have a duty to ensure that we sustain the theory that the National Democratic Revolution is the shortest route to socialism. But we must also, in reviving that, not assume that it is going to fall from heaven. It is going to happen if we do certain things to ensure that the National Democratic Revolution is the shortest route to socialism. And socialism is not manna. Socialism is transformation of society. You see, remember what Madiba said in paying tribute to Harry Gwala in his funeral. He said, many of today's leaders drank from the deep well of Perpetua's political wisdom. But such was the nature of his teaching that the products of his education would themselves develop into political giants in their own right, using the tools he gave them to develop independent thought and into independent thought and analysis. And therefore, comrades, it is important for us that when you interact, the easiest thing that we have today is to think that if I attack Solima Paila and everybody celebrates, I go around saying, and that's it. So, so what? What positive contribution have I made in interacting with him? It happens with many of us, and I want to appeal to our comrades to appreciate the fact that we have a responsibility to develop one another, lean on one another, continue struggling for freedom, continue to accept that economic freedom has not yet been achieved. The men who are remembering today, and the respect of his peers as well as those older and younger than him, I like because he was forthright and he spoke his mind without any reservation, as long as he was convinced that doing so would advance the revolution. I thought that the General Secretary of the party would have taken all of us on board about a time when there was an ideological battle about the very survival of the Southern Communist Party, including a fight about its name. Battles. We were young. He used to just throw something to make us listen carefully, so that you must be reliable. You must not be changing your views every moment you hear somebody else. And I think that period saved the Communist Party, and we need to continue preserving it, because many of we lost a number of prominent communists in that period. We don't talk about that period, but it's one of the most important periods. And when we complain, Comrade Blade, sometimes we say the party has gone younger, and we stop there. What we don't do is an analysis of a party that was under siege at a particular point in time. It has to be protected by very few strong cadres of the movement. Now, And if we don't want to remind ourselves that, then we are not going to find it easy to sustain the party. We'll complain and say, party under siege, ayifuna. Party is not under siege. Party is wanted. Party has a long history of strengthening the content of the ideology of the revolution. You know, I criticized the party 2 years ago. I said to them, you came up with a very good analysis of the development of capital formations post-independent, but you killed it by giving it a label. So it entrepreneurs. Bring that analysis back. Capital formation develops beyond independent. When the private sector is reluctant, the state has always taken the responsibility of facilitating its development of capital formations post-independent. And we must not label them as greedy and all that. It is the nature of the capital formations post-independent, but must be anchored on theory. And that theory is what we need today all the time. So alliance is not about liking one another. It's about playing different roles, commit others to appreciate that your role is your role, you will continue playing it, whether I want or I don't want. So Harry Gwala was a theoretician. He wrote, he always disagreed in many times with Madiba, but they describe their disagreement in that neither of them emerged poorer of knowledge every time they disagreed. Let me repeat it. They agree that neither of them appeared neither poorer of knowledge every time they disagreed. I hope we can have that capacity, cousin. When we're not on the same WhatsApp group, we must still come out very strong and clear. Harry Gwala internalized the impatience of the masses regarding promise of total free society, yet he remained ever scientific in his approach to the revolution. That is the aspect that needs to be strengthened. Yoguti, even when there are disagreements, we don't see it the same way. Scientific analysis must guide the disagreement and engagement, because by the time we find solutions, we will be aware of the fact that those solutions are scientific, and therefore they will stand the test of time. And that's what we need, Harry Gwala, to, when we think of it, we must actually wish that capacity would rub on us. Let me conclude, comrade, by saying our forebears built an internationalist movement, a movement that was not narrow, that was not local, a movement that appreciated that it needed solidarity from others, it needed to pledge solidarity to others. When the Palestinians are actually being wiped out of existence by Netanyahu trying to annex them, we have a duty to be playing a role in stopping that. When Morocco is an occupying force in Western Sahara, we have a responsibility to talk to that, because if we don't, there may be fewer who talk about it. We must appreciate the fact that we are part of that global international movement and take that job and that responsibility seriously. On behalf of the President Matomela Cyril Ramaphosa, I must say that we have an obligation to combat, root out, and isolate the corrupt elements among us. It is the 2017 National Conference that resolved that will summarily suspend people who fail to give an acceptable explanation or voluntarily step down while they face disciplinary investigation and procedural procedures. We will publicly dissociate ourselves from anyone, whether business donor, supporter, or member, accused of corruption and reported to be involved in corruption. All ANC members and structures should cooperate with law enforcement agencies to criminally prosecute anyone guilty of corruption. We therefore once more recommit ourselves to the implementation of the conference resolution. Furthermore, as head of government, now you must remember, for the period of this lecture, I'm speaking on behalf of the president. So, so you must respect myself. I want you to listen very carefully to this one. We therefore once more commit ourselves to the implementation of our conference resolution. Furthermore, as head of government, do you hear that, son? As head of government, I have already signed a proclamation authorizing SI University to any unlawful improper conduct in the procurement of any good, works or services during the later national state of disaster in any state institution will not rest until corrupt elements face full might of the law and account for their action. As ANC members, we must take leave from his life, try to emulate him by ensuring that the goals of the revolution that he was part of and led are achieved, that the revolution that he was outstanding champion of is sustained and defended all the time. To fight corruption everywhere, and I have signed proclamation. That is COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson of the African National Congress, Comrade Samson. Thank you, Comrade Samson, National Chair, and thanks to you presenting on behalf of the President of the African National Congress, who's also the President of the Republic of South Africa. Comrade Jesse DSG, Comrade Sihle, Provincial Chair, Comrade Blade, Comrade Kawe, can you all just give us an opportunity? I'm going to invite 4 comrades coming from the provinces that are with us here to raise their hands here on the chat. And if they have issues or comments to make, but not additional speeches, I'm giving each one of them a minute. So we will take 5 minutes just to hear issues that are going to be raised by the participants in this room, and then go back to yourselves before Comrade Mtumiseni comes back to wrap this program of today. But thank you very much, National Chair, and convey our greatest appreciation to the President. Any takers? I see Comrade Tsepo Comrade Tsepo.
Thanks
Comrade
very
Tsepo,
much.
show your face when you speak.
I was sitting next to a Mkuku, Comrade Chairperson, so I did not want to represent abject poverty that our masses are continuously faced with on a daily basis. But nonetheless, thanks a lot, Comrade Chairperson. Just to say, coming from the Northwest, which is a province that factions has really been quite endemic, I'm extremely agitated by the speakers who has made presentation today, starting with the Comrade Chairperson, Comrade General Secretary of the party, and Comrade Sihle Zikalala and Comrade Kawe from Gauteng, that indeed, comrades, part of what we must really do today, and that I'm agitated to always speak about, is the achievement of unity in the organization, understanding that whilst we may be having different political orientations in terms of ideology and preferences of leadership, it is also important that we must understand that the ANC has always been a melting pot of all ideas, and therefore we appreciate and we are very much inspired by the ability of what seemed to have been something that is quite improbable by the province of KZN to achieve unity and be able to provide an ANC that remains today quite an exemplary kind of leadership in the country. And we are highly appreciative of the leadership of Comrade Sihle Zikalala and his collective in KZN. You continue to inspire some of us to work towards achieving unity. I thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Comrade Teshi. There is no other, yes, Comrade Teshi is not there. I've seen Comrade Lindiwe, Nchali. Lindy. Lindy went Charlie. I can't, she's not picking up. Teshi is also not picking up.
There's Comrade Sifiso Gwala, Comrade Chair.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Comrade DSG. Comrade Sifiso Gwala, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Comrade Mokonyane. I think we appreciate this platform and what the Alliance is actually doing in honor of Harry Gwala, and we believe that going forward in the next year, a lot is going to be done to ensure that we remember Comrade Harry Gwala. For me, I think we must be able, as the government, to ensure that we use the Department of Arts and Culture to ensure that we honor our heroes through ensuring that books must be commissioned of these heroes, because we are at a stage where a number of the old guard are leaving us, and we can only honor them by ensuring that that history is properly recorded. And I think we want to thank the leadership of KwaZulu in KwaZulu-Natal. It's highly appreciated. The gesture to honor Edendale Hospital is really a way forward. And we hope that through engagements going forward in this year, a lot will be achieved to ensure that we honor Comrade Harry Gwala. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sifiso, and we appreciate those words coming from the Gwala family, and we really appreciate your identity and continuous support working together with the African National Congress. Comrade National Chair and Comrade Sihle, I'm sure you can comment around issues of heritage, and in line with what you have raised, Comrade Sihle, earlier on the work that the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal has done. But let me hear from you, Comrade Kuzeni.
Thanks, Comrade Program Director. I think Comrade Sifiso is correct, and Comrade from Northwest. I think unity is important. And I think Comrade Blade was emphasizing the point that we may differ on specifics, but we must know that we must not allow the existence of factions. One thing that Comrade Harry Gwala explore was a concept of frictions and factions. He will not have a problem with comrades who share the same political school of thought, but he will have a problem with people who organize themselves as a faction. So I think that is important. The second point Comrade Fiso is raising, yes, but I think even national, we must work together to ensure that the call for declaring the grave site of Comrade Harry Gwala to become one of the national monument, that call should be fulfilled. And one Comrade Harry Gwala is one of IsiThwalandwe who have sacrificed for this revolution and for our country. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. National Chairperson, can you respond on behalf of the President?
Yes, as the President, comrades, the Furing and Land notice, as the President, no, I want to raise only two issues. I think we should all work together to revitalize the heritage trail that was started. It's not only in South Africa, it's in the continent. The first conference outside of the country was in Lubas in Botswana. And it goes on and on and on. It goes up to the further north part of the continent. And I think we should revive that, spend money on it, so that history stands for life. That is one. I agree with Comrade Gwala on that issue. The second one is, we have a challenge that we should confront together. Where, for example, you see, when you get an attack on the movement, it doesn't matter what kind of an attack, I think we should confront this question of cadres of the movement lamenting the collapsing of the movement. You know, it's like a pilot who is piloting a plane and say, passengers, this plane is about to crash. I think it's a strange phenomenon in the NC, which we must have. After there's a bigger army within the movement that attacks the movement from within. And we must confront that issue, deal with this, unify the movement. If I have a complaint, I must bring it to the movement. I must not go about and say, the movement is Agufa. Is Agufa and the way responsibility of being a co-pilot. I have a duty to ensure that I if. So I think those are the 2 points I want to raise. The ANC has a lot of potential to grow. The problem we have against you're right, Comrade, is this thing of thinking that we belong to factions. We don't belong there, we belong to the ANC. So we must be summoned when we must be summoned and be asked to account, simple. That's where we belong, and goes.
Thank you very much, National Chair. That then will bring us to the end of the program, but before we conclude, I would then invite Comrade Mtumiseni, the Provincial Secretary, to wrap up this program. But thanks to all the provinces that have participated and those that have been following through the SABC and other media houses, as well as the alliance platforms. The unity of the NC, the unity of the alliance is quite important for the unity of the people of South Africa. Comrade Mtumiseni, Nopal. If Comrade Mtu is not here, the head of organizing in KwaZulu-Natal, Comrade Jabulo, can you then close, in your closure, indicate also some of the programs? On the 2nd of August, we will also be celebrating 99 years of the South African Communist Party. And that is one of the programs that we are all working very hard in ensuring that it becomes a very successful program to celebrate the party, the programs, its contribution for the historical past, but also going into the future. Comrade Njabulo.
No, thank you very much, leadership. I think from organizing and the PSO, and also from the SGO, these programs will continue to be held throughout the country, and we really emphasize their value and their impact they continue to make. Just on this program today, we've been able to reach quite a lot of people, whether via our telemedia as well as social media platforms, where discussions of this nature have really made an impact. It also portrays the organization as an organization that continues to work. And we thank comrades who have really taken time to participate, comrades from the Alliance, for us to come here together and show unity. And show unity of the organization is indeed important. And more programs are going to be continuing, and we'll continue to share those particular programs. Also, comrades from other provinces who have came in, this is indeed a significant platform that shows that we can continue our work and interact as provinces on a program that does not only celebrate our heroes, but also gives us a sense of direction moving forward. Thank you to the leadership, and thank you for the support in the planning of this particular event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Njabulo, and thanks to comrades across the provinces, KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, for hosting the programs for today, and our programs are continuing. Remember, we will have another big session in celebrating the 99 years of the South African Communist Party. Thank you, National Chair. We can see Comrade Blade. Yes, Comrade Blade.
Yes,
ma'am. Over now.
Thank you.
Thank
Long
you,
live the chair.
Mfana kwaDambuza, siyabonga. Thank you, Kuzeni.
Thanks, Kwate.
Oh, siyabonga leadership. Thanks.
Siyabonga.